mechanized transport, it could spread inland. By 1904, a new federation of French West Africa, stretching beyond Timbuktu into Niger, extended French rule to more than 10 million Africans.
Where's my controlling device?
En route, no doubt about it, empire was about
Okay,
conquest.
we're
The first measures
recording.
French-trained tirailleurs was against the rulers of the Senegalese interior.
You can't see me anywhere.
And French citizenship
I
was certainly
better
not
put
an
myself
offer
in the
to these
picture.
new subjects of the African
How's
hinterland.
that?
The scramble for Africa has become a byword for the ruthless exploitation of an
And
entire
it is
continent by
today.
rapacious Europeans. But it was also a scramble for scientific knowledge. With the spread of railways went the spread of Western civilization and its killer app, modern medicine.
Modern
This was
medicine.
the original Médecins Sans Frontières, doctors without borders.
Jesus.
It's a point often
Okay, I'm watching this thing on the DRK Culture Channel. The time is now 18 minutes past midnight on the 22nd.
All over the burgeoning French Empire, the overthrow of native power structures was followed
On the
by an attempt
22nd
to
of
eradicate
May,
native superstitions about health.
2014.
And this is what's meant by
Okay,
traditional healing.
get rid of the sound. They're singing about the virtues of Western civilization, and they are many. They are legion. The introduction of penicillin into the world at large, I mean, Christ almighty, that must have done something to increase the population over time. And yes, if you were wondering, this is marijuana derivative. Call it medicinal, if you will. I really don't care what you call it. Anyway, second episode of my my late night diaries, or verbal diarrheas. As you can see, that's the first one that's playing out in the background, so I'm fully aware of what I look like and the kind of presentation that I make. And I'm learning the trade as I go along. Now, if you'll notice in the background, the screen there is blank. Now, the next video that I make, the screen back there will also be playing me doing one of these idiot things. Anyway, you can be thankful out there that we have not yet come to the point in our virtual relationship that smells are coming through. But I just had an outgassing, and because I've developed a sort of, you know, I like chocolate cookies. They make these great big ones. They don't cost much, you know, over at the Netto store, the big discount thingy. Not because I like a chocolate cookie. Okay, yeah, right. Well, it also produces some of the most astounding outgasses of intestinal byproducts. Luckily, they sort of just glide out and envelop me in that old man's smell that I'm also getting, because they've told me I must take massive supplements as powerful B vitamins. So I take some B vitamins. It turns my urine deeply yellow. But I fear I stray. My idea was today I might talk about some books and, well, review a book. And, yeah, right, the story was basically this one that, you know, I've never tried to order a book on Amazon before. Oh, Jesus. And I did, and, you know, the UPS parcel service, or what the fuck their name is, actually delivered it to my door within the time frame that I had ordered it. And I paid a little bit more to have it delivered forthwith as soon as they could. And it came 4 days later, I guess. It has to be noticed that there was a Christian holiday in between where everything was closed. What the hell was that named? That was, oh yeah, Store Day, they call it. Or I call it Open Day. Or Red Beet Day. But I don't know if they have this in England. They serve these hot cross buns. It might be something to do with that because they also serve buns on the eve of the day. I don't know why. And I don't even know what the name of that particular is in English. I mean, that particular church you know, celebration. But it is within Christianity somewhere. Or certainly within Danish Christianity. Store Day is a day where the buses run like they do on Sunday, and even the baker is closed. Yeah. Well, anyway, once again, I digress. I was on the Amazon, and you know, I used to have a massive book collection. I still do, but it's a shambles, and it's a relic of what it once was. I think I must have lost at least 500 titles in Annetta's basement over on Bonholm after a heavy rain filled up her garage, her sub-level garage. And while I lived with her at that point there in the 6 months or so, the books rotted. So amongst them, some pretty damn good ones too. You know. They weren't all paperbacks and comic strips. Well, anyway, this one from 1967. I used to have an American version paperback, or maybe it was the British one, I don't know. A Penguin, maybe, perhaps. But, you know, the standard size of paperback books. And on it was, I mean, the front cover was a sort of a silhouette of a human cranium or human, you know, profile. And somewhere in there was a rat. I mean, it was one of those pictures where you really have to look for it and then you see it type of thing. Or, you know, it dawns on you, there's a rat in there. The Mind Parasites, Colin Wilson, 1967. And, you know, I always enjoyed Colin Wilson. I mean to say, I used to spend hours on trains going from one place to the other. And many is the books of his that I've read. Also some of the more scholarly ones. And The Occult, of course, is a classic. I'm looking at it as I sit here There's that old ear-thumbed through old volume, flop-eared. Oh yeah, it's still there. I got a lot of shit that I really ought to throw away, but I got a lot of shit that I really ought to just make sure that you don't totally throw them away. Anyway, Mr. Wilson in this book introduces us to the concept that, that we've perhaps been invaded by some sort of alien entities, and they have been with us for a very long time. They may have had a finger in our evolution. They might have interfered. Maybe there are more than just the one, but maybe there are many of these cosmic entities, and hence we have in our mythology angels and demons and leprechauns and fairies and all the rest of it. Or just strange happenstances. The little green men of Carlos Castaneda lore, of Don Juan and the Indian shamans, and the American Indian shamans. There are many unanswered questions out there. But, okay, I don't know what is true, but I do know when I see ideas come rolling by. It's like, watching like a surfer watching the waves. And this is what I call noetic studies, for crying out loud. But anyway, it's been reprinted. So this one is from, the 21st century. I think it was, 2004 or 5, with relatively modern rock star songwriter type of thing writing an introduction to it. And Colin Wilson, he must be a pretty old guy if he's still alive at all, but he does have an afterword to it, which I haven't read yet. But I mean to say, the short of the long is, archaeologist and a psychologist sort of team up. They're friends. They've known each other since academia and all the rest of it and stuff like that. But they suddenly come across something that's of equal interest to them both. And and I often talk about this. I was watching this thing about the Rommel story and all that shit. What the hell was going through his mind at the time, what if Aloysius Hitler had fucking kept a really concise diary? Of course, nowadays it's so much easier. You just turn on this thing and then you post it on the tube to anybody that is inclined to listen. But yes, what he's talking about is that there could exist in the dimensions that we are totally unaware of and never think about or even consider for a moment, entities that feed off our energy. Energy is energy, and negative energy and fear and neuroses and so many other things. In the old days they used to look upon people as if they were possessed, and many's the priest that tried to burn that out of them. And I work with autists and idiots of just about every description available, and it would be very easy or convenient to use that as a model, but I've never heard about anybody curing, a Mongolian idiot, if we want to go that far. We happen to know these days that these is genetics, a lot is genetics that is talking to, and we're learning to understand all this stuff. And it is filtrating down to the rest of us, you know, the populace. It is sedimenting down to us, as John Lennon might have said, interesting sediments. But he mentions that, you know, in the book that, you know, our two heroes finally wake up to this state, and it is like, imagine you were a French type of scientist in the, you know, in the 16th century and stuff like that, and you know, we've got things like magnifying glasses, well, never leave home without it, and the like, and you know, and you discover that under the powdered and perfumed wigs, the lice lurk. We have parasites, and I think that's what good old Colin was trying to maybe tell us with that idea, because it can look like that. You can actually see them in a room, the way laughter ripples through a crowd, and like the way people can get all, you know, they go into, what do you call it? I call it sinnsving in Danish. You know, I mean to say it starts, you know, feeding back and it builds up and shit happens. And usually it's not very good shit that happens. Yeah. Once again, I mean to say, that was the Monday musings, what's going on over there. And this is Thursday morning. I've got another working day in front of me. My grueling 3-hour workday. 3.5-hour workday. Thank goodness I'm taking a holiday, 3 weeks. Boy, I need it. Do I ever need it? So anyway, nobody reads books anymore anyway, so I don't know even why I'm saying about this, the mind parasites. But one thing I'd like to point out, that, I mean, there are other thinkers out there and other guys that have read, I'm sure, I'm quite sure David Icke has read The Mind Parasites. After all, Colin Wilson is a British author, and why shouldn't he have read other British authors? And he himself is a British author now, and I've never read anything that he ever wrote. Of my favorite British author is, well, okay, there are so many. There are so many. But Charles Dickens, definitely. Lewis Carroll, oh man, yeah. Every kid knows Lewis Carroll, even if not by name. Aleister Crowley, the bad boy of the group, and so many others, so many others. I mean, you know, I love the English language. It's you know, for me it is still, it represents still the language of reason. I mean, French is very flowery, so I'm told, and very ornamental. Danish is pretty practical too. I find that Danish is, but it also has its, what you call linguistic flowers, like, you know, and puns. Oh, the Danes, they just love their puns. And language is a wonderful thing. I'm glad we've got them. Mathematics, they say, is language. repetition. So this was my little book review today. I've got a couple of other ones that I'd certainly like to touch on. I mean, as like some of the public speakers of today, where did they get their inspiration? Now, I was talking in the last one about, you know, you can look at somebody and, you know, that you might meet, you know, the school kids today, and, you know, you bat the breeze with them if they'll deign you a moment and chuckle and tease and, you know, take their good humored stuff like that, you know, and teasing or whatever, and talk to them. I mean, I talked to some kids down here at my local kiosk, you know, a place where you can get a beer Sunday morning early and stuff like that. And all the kids hang out. They're all gambling. Christ almighty, I've never seen anything like it. You know, I mean, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids there, they're fucking playing the horses, playing the footballs, playing any kind of game of chance in there. It's, you know, it's become an acceptable pastime, and occasionally the little assholes win stuff, you know. Of course, they don't spend the money on drugs and beer like I would have done. They spend it on more gambling, and so it's pointless. What am I don't take drugs. Since I've been struck, since I've been numb-struck, I have taken a little bit of what I now call medicinal cannabis, which is very readily available. They've even got these guys nowadays, if you got a telephone number, they call them the brown, what do you call a guy that delivers shit? But anyway, phone them up, you'll be out in your parking lot. You know, it's no big deal. Lots of old people like me smoke dope. Yes, well, as it says,